so I'm here to open this next vlog, have some rosé, have a chill time, all that good stuff. I just wrapped up my middle grade reading vlog, and now I am going to start the vlog that is me reading the pics that are based on prompts that Kim from Expedition Through Pages picked for me during her TBR game. I was so excited that she is including other people in her TBR game, so of course I wanted to be involved. And she so kindly rolled and got me some prompts on her board game. It's super fun. I'll link the video, both of the videos, her TBR video and my announcement video, I guess, or my response to that, where I have a bunch of options for what I wanted to read for those prompts, and then I said that I would pick ones that would be associated with each prompt and reveal what I actually wanted to read in this vlog and vlog my experience reading them. So I have decided which ones I want to read. I've actually already finished one book for this vlog. Don't judge. It's been a week coming back to my apartment, cleaning, organizing things, and just reconnecting with my life here. So I haven't been able to check in, so I've already finished one book for this vlog. We'll get to that in just a moment. But the books that I am reading for this vlog, the first prompt was to read a book set in England, and for this one I'm going to read The Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem. I think this is by Mandy Collins, if I remember correctly. I'll put an image here. That's going to be what I select for that prompt. I also got a prompt to read something with pink on the cover, and I've decided to go with Cosmos by Carl Sagan. I'll put an image of what I'm referring to here. There's a little bit of pink in the sky. It counts, it's fine. And I also got a prompt to read something with white on the cover, and I have the ebook and audiobook with This Cover of the Humans by Matt Haig that is mostly white. And I've been excited to read The Humans for a while. I think it'll be funny and hopefully just an entertaining but also interesting read. I'll tell you more about them as I read these books. And then for the final prompt, this is actually the one that I have read the book for, was the one that she was actually really nervous to tell me about. She drew a prompt for me to read a book over 500 pages, and she profusely apologized. She was like, "I'm sorry, I went a dangerous route and I got you a difficult prompt of a book over 500 pages. And I was like, "No problem." There are a bunch of books that I have that are over 500 pages that I'm so excited for. And of course, that's the first book that I read for this vlog, is the one that's over 500 pages. And I read From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. And so I will get to that one in just a sec. But yeah, those are the 4 books that I will be reading for this vlog. And I believe I have the audiobooks of all of these. And so I will this is mostly just going to be an audio vlog. I just happen to have all of these through various platforms on audio. So anyway, so I started with From Blood and Ash. I was just in the mood as I was moving, organizing stuff, cleaning around my apartment. I was just in the mood for a fantasy romance. I can't explain it. I was in the mood. I decided to start with From Blood and Ash. And as I said, I listened to this on audio. I happened to have it on Audible, and I had such a fun time with this one. The narrator was great. I really, really enjoyed the narrator. I thought she did a really, really good job. And this for sure gave me ACOTAR vibes. So this one follows Poppy. Poppy is the maiden in this society, and that means that she is going to go through an ascension and basically be given to the gods, or she's not entirely sure what's going to happen at that point, and that kind of plays a role throughout the book, like her lack of clarity about what her role as the maiden is, what she needs to do, what her ascension is going to entail, what's going to come after. Anyway, but she is the maiden and is protected because she has been chosen by the gods, and that protection involves her basically not really being able to do much of anything. She, stays in her room a lot. She can kind of go some places and do a few things with guards around her, but she really can't do much of anything. And she's, very much protected. And at one point, one of her guards is killed in action, and they need a new personal guard for her, and so Hawk is selected to be her personal guard, and she ultimately falls for her guard Hawk. And so it is this fantasy romance story of those two falling in love, and of course, you know, there are creatures, there's this ascension that's going on, you know, some people around her are starting to die, and she's trying to figure out what's going on to the best of her abilities without her being able to really do much of anything. And it was just fun. It was entertaining. You know, their dynamic was pretty fun and entertaining. There are definitely quite a few things that aren't as clearly explained about the world, even in this book, and yeah, maybe this will come later on in the series. There's some stuff that's explained in this book, but there's quite a bit that's, you just gotta roll with it, right? Like, not all of it is exactly explained, and part of this is because Poppy's a naive character. You're following from her perspective. She's very, very sheltered and naive, and so part of it is that you don't know things because she doesn't know some things. But there are still some things about the world that, you know, different creatures that aren't really described, some settings that weren't, or just some, I guess, some of the politics and some parts of the world that aren't, you don't get a lot of details about them, I guess. And it would have been nice to get some of those details and have a few more things about the world explained throughout the book. But this is still just an entertaining time, and I don't know if I have too many like critical things to say about it, because I went in wanting just a fun, entertaining time with a fantasy romance. Again, very much gave me A Court of Thorns and Roses series vibes, and you know, if that was your thing, this might be your thing as well, and I had a good time with it. So the one that I just started after finishing From Blood and Ash was Lady's Guide to Murder and Mayhem, and this I got on audio because it happened to be part of a sale on Audible, and I noticed that the narrator, Mary Jane Wells, she narrates this, and she's also the narrator of the Girl Meets Duke series by Tessa Dare, and I loved those audiobooks. I loved them so much. She's such a talented narrator, and so if she narrated this, I was like, I want to listen to this on audio. I mean, I do also happen to have the Kindle version, or the ebook version on Kindle, but I was like, if she narrates this and I can listen to it on audio, I'm gonna go that route. And so I'm listening to the audiobook for this one. I just started, so I'm not very far into it at all. And this one follows a woman who is wanting to write more, or write some things about true crime. So there's a serial killer in London. This is a historical fiction, and it's like historical fiction romance, so a historical romance really, and that also has a mystery element to it, I guess. And there's a serial killer. Our main character would like to write more about this serial killer from a woman's perspective, so that the women in town can be more prepared and, you know, help them stay safe. The prevailing wisdom at the time is that this is just too much for delicate ladies' ears to comprehend, and our character's like, no, women need to know what's going on, and advice for how best to protect themselves. And so she partners up with another woman to write a little bit about the serial killer, and she starts to do some of her own investigating, and, you know, is starting to turn some information over to the police as well. And anyway, so that's kind of the start and the setup of this. I will talk more about it once I actually have read more of it, but that's our setup here. And again, so far so good, but I'm not very far into it. But again, she's such a delightful narrator that at the very least I think I'm going to enjoy the audio experience of this, if nothing else. But yeah, that is it for an initial check-in. I will check back in once I've read more of A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem. Okay, so it is a bit later and I finished a couple more books for this vlog, so I wanted to do a quick check-in. And the first one I finished for this one, the first of the two that I'm talking about that I finished is The Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem by Amanda Collins. I again listened to this one on audio, and the audiobook was delightful, as I figured it would be, because Mary Jane Wells is a fantastic narrator. So if you are interested in this book and have access to the audio and enjoy listening to audiobooks, would highly recommend that route, because she's just a delight. So I think I had set up the basic premise, but this follows Catherine, and there's a serial killer going around London. Catherine and a friend of hers want to write about the events going on, and about how women around London can help protect themselves, at least as much as they can. And so she starts to write about this, which is not the proper place for a lady, you know, back in Regency era. And so she and her friend start writing about this. The investigator, in the process of their investigation, they talk to someone that the police hadn't actually talked to. And so this sheds some negative light on the investigator, the key investigator on the case. And they end up actually replacing him with someone else. And there's kind of a quick, maybe too rushed arrest of someone who perhaps isn't the actual killer. And this is potentially confirmed when there are more killings that are in that signature or use that signature of the killer. And so, you know, Catherine's trying to figure out what's going on, her friend's trying to figure out what's going on. They actually bring the investigator back on in light of what's going on, because they just need more help trying to figure out what's happening. And so she kind of, on the DL, is helping him with the investigation, and you know, in little bits here and there, helping him with the investigation, and is trying to figure out what's going on herself. And they begin to appreciate each other as they start to work together a bit, and you know, potentially leads to more. And this was enjoyable. Like, it was overall just enjoyable, fun, entertaining. I really like Catherine as a character. She's just a fun and entertaining character. I like the dynamic that she has with the friend that she's writing with. They have a really great friendship. I really like that aspect. I thought the romance part of it was rushed. I mean, there's definitely some tension at the beginning, and they do begin to appreciate each other, but that kind of very quickly leads to, and then kissing, and I'm like, but is that okay? That just kind of, that jump happened pretty quickly, and I don't know, it just seemed a little bit underdeveloped to me, and wasn't the main part that I was liking about this. I mean, I do appreciate actually both of them as characters. I just thought that their relationship was, and the dynamic between them just kind of happened relatively quickly, which is fine. I mean, this is a relatively short book, so there's not a ton of space there to actually develop the two of them together. And so I wasn't 100% buying the romance, but you know, if that premise overall intrigues you, this was fun, entertaining, not anything earth-shattering, but definitely fun. The next book that I read or finished for this vlog is The Humans by Matt Haig. Again, listen to this in audio. I really enjoyed the audiobook. I really liked the narrator. And this one follows an alien that comes to Earth disguised as a human and needs to figure out humanity for the sake of his mission. So there's a math professor who has made a key math discovery, and this alien has sent essentially to replace him. So this math professor is killed, this alien is sent to replace and impersonate him, because the alien needs to make sure that any evidence that this math professor made this discovery, and anyone that he might have told about it, he needs to erase any evidence that this math professor made this mathematical discovery. And in the process of doing this, he really comes to, so he has no clue what humanity is all about. He thinks humans are weird, do strange things, are violent and disgusting, but he needs to impersonate a human and essentially live this math professor's life for a little bit to figure out exactly who he might have told and erase evidence of this discovery. And so he begins to appreciate and understand humans along the way. And it's pretty entertaining. It's pretty funny. It's pretty entertaining. This was, yeah, definitely funnier than The Midnight Library, which is the other fiction book from Matt Haig that I've read. And I thought it was supposed to be in the funnier, lighter-hearted vein than The Midnight Library, but this still did actually have heavy moments, which wasn't completely unexpected because Matt Haig does write a lot about mental health, depression, suicidal ideation, suicide attempts, and those are triggers in this book, so that is something to be aware of going in. I wasn't fully expecting it to get as heavy as it did in some moments. Overall, it's still a funny book, and overall there are more lighthearted moments than there are heavier ones, but they still are present in this book. And yeah, I really enjoyed the writing. I enjoyed the humor. I enjoyed the commentary that this alien has on humans and humanity, and his growing appreciation for humans, and the messiness of life and humanity and mortality. And I thought it was clever and funny, and I had a really good time listening to it. So I would definitely recommend. I'm also currently listening to Cosmos by Carl Sagan. So I'll talk more about that one in my next check-in. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I mean, it's Cosmos by Carl Sagan. I watched the show growing up as a kid, and Carl Sagan is one of the top people that I would love to just be able to have a coffee with and have a conversation with. Absolutely love him. But I'll talk more about that one in the next check-in when I actually finish it. I am, as a little bonus, so I finished the fictions as I was still listening to the audiobook of Cosmos, and I really wanted some fiction to also be in the mix. I don't tend to want to only listen to a nonfiction just in case I'm in the mood for something else. And my hold for the audio of Illuminae by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman came in after I finished The Humans. And so I'm pretty sure, I'm 99.9% sure this is a book that Kim has actually read and loved. And so I figured it would be perfect to just kind of throw this in here as a little bonus, since I'm reading this anyway as this vlog is going on, just to keep a fiction on the side while I'm also listening to a nonfiction. And I'm about halfway through. This is a pretty quick book to read because it is in, don't want to have my bookmark fell out, but like it's in different media in here. It's kind of a multimedia. There are text from different conversations between different characters, interviews, descriptions of things that are going on from video surveillance. So it's a pretty quick to get through. But I'm halfway through this, and this one follows. So it's, again, a complete story told through those methods, and follows an attack on a planet. And there are two main characters, two main characters-ish. As main characters as can actually happen in this kind of story. But we're following Katie and Ezra, who are on this planet. They just broke up that morning. There's an attack on their planet. In the haste of actually getting away and kind of escaping the attack on this planet, they end up getting on board two different ships that are escaping, and it's actually a company that has attacked their planet. So there's an illegal mining operation or some sort of illegal refinery operation going on this planet, and the company that's running it, a rival company to them, has actually come to attack and maybe potentially try to take over some of the resources that are being illegally mined. Anyway, so a company has attacked, some people have escaped, and so the company that has attacked is trying to chase them so that they can destroy any evidence that they actually attacked this operation on this planet. And so you follow Katie and Ezra on these different ships who are trying to figure out what's going on. They're trying to figure out what's going on with the ship that's chasing them and figure out what to do about that. It is super interesting. It is super engaging, and just a very unique way. I'm really enjoying the multimedia and just the way that the story is being told. it's just super interesting and different, and I'm having a great time. I'm having a great time physically reading it while listening to the audiobook. The audiobook is also definitely super unique, and I'm enjoying the process of, or reading it physically while listening. Anyway, I'll again talk more about that in my next check-in, but I just wanted to mention that as a little bonus for you, Kim. Anyway, I will check in later. Okay, I'm in the same position I've been in this entire vlog. I'll change it up more in future vlogs. Apologies. It has still been crazy busy recently, and so I just don't have the energy to try to make this visually as interesting as possible. So I'm just here sitting again, chilling with some wine. I'm gonna wrap up the rest of the books that I read for this vlog. I also have a lot more filming to do, hence part of why I have some wine. I also just want some wine. But the two more that I finished included Illuminae, which I referenced in the previous clip, and I also finished Cosmos, which I had begun to talk about in the last clip as well. So I'll start with Illuminae. My feelings are pretty much the same from what I said last time, and grew to love it even more. This was a wild freaking ride that just kept getting more and more crazy as you went along. And I say I still have the same feelings in terms of I still really loved the way multimedia was used in this. I thought it was really effectively done. It was just very interesting, unique, and I got so attached to these characters and the situation that they were in. I really didn't expect to feel as connected to these characters as I did. And of course there are a lot of methods an author can use to make you feel connected to a character. It doesn't necessarily have to be a traditional narrative style. You don't necessarily have to get into the head of a character in that traditional way in order to feel connected to them. And there's still a lot of direct, even if it's not direct dialogue on a page, it's still communication that you're seeing. So you're still getting a glimpse into these characters. But I really felt attached to these characters and just enjoyed the ride so much. Like, it was just such a fun, entertaining ride. And I have an image of the book here. You might remember I had a physical copy in the previous clip. I've already lent it out to someone because they were also interested, and I talked about finishing it, and they were like, yeah, that's interesting. I'm like, here, you can borrow it. So I've already lent it out to someone, which is why I have the image here. So I don't know if there's much more I can say. I think I gave a bit of the plot in the last clip, if I remember right. And so I think there's not much more I can say in terms of the plot, except things just, of course, keep getting more and more complicated between the ships that have escaped the attack on this planet and the ship from the company that instigated the attack on this illegal mining operation so that they could hopefully kind of take over it potentially. And it just keeps getting crazier. There's an AI situation in this, so an AI is part of this scenario as well, just on the ships. So that was a very interesting element. And it was so good. And I really liked just the different kinds of multimedia that were used. I mean, I liked the way it was used as well, but I liked that they just kind of changed up how they were telling the story throughout the book. It just made for a really incredibly interesting and entertaining ride. And there's really not much more I can say without just being super repetitive and vague. So, would highly recommend. I'm pretty sure Kim loved this as well. I'll be messaging you soon to talk about it because, goodness gracious. So, absolutely love that one. The next book I finished was Cosmos. And again, not much more I can say about this one. It is a non-fiction. And if you ever watched the Cosmos show from way back when Carl Sagan did it, which I would highly recommend, it was riveting. I loved it when I watched it as a kid. I also really loved the recent iteration of it as well. But I absolutely loved these when I was growing up and watched all of them when I was a kid with my family. And so I knew what to expect. Again, I knew I loved his writing and just the way he communicates about science. It's just his passion and his enthusiasm just comes through so clearly. And he's talking about everything from some aspects of the history of science to how that relates to things today, different planets in the solar system, galaxies in the universe, how the universe came to be, the different particles and matter that make up the universe, and just just very, very infectious love for life and discovery and science. It's so cool. And of course, LeVar Burton narrates. I don't know how much I talked about him in the last clip, but he was the absolute perfect choice to narrate this because, one, LeVar Burton is amazing. I loved having Geordie LaForge talk to me more about science. And I mean, he's a wonderful narrator. He's an incredibly talented narrator, and he was able to translate what, you know, I remember Carl Sagan and how he portrayed his enthusiasm and passion, and I think LeVar Burton was really, really able to capture that incredibly well. And I like, there could not have been a better narrator, I think, for this series. He did such a good job communicating what I think Carl Sagan was trying to get across in this. I will say there is just a lot of information in this book, and so, you know, listening via audio, you know, I'm not gonna retain as much, of course, as if I'm, you know, reading the text and taking notes and being more meticulous about it. So, you know, there are some things that I'm comprehending it as I'm reading it, but there are definitely going to be a lot of little things that I miss. And I mean, you could probably read this multiple times and still not remember everything in it because there's just a lot packed in here. But that's not a criticism of either the book or the narration. That's just, there's a lot, and it's hard to just remember every single thing as you're listening. But I just need to get a physical copy of this and just devour this as many times as I can throughout my life because I love the entire Cosmos project. Anyway, so that is everything I read for this vlog. Let's see if I can rank everything. Illuminae was probably #1, even though I didn't intend to read that for this vlog. It wasn't a prompt that she drew for me, but it just so happened to fit sort of what was happening. I loved it. I would probably have to say nonfiction is really hard to rank amongst fictions, but I you know, I absolutely adored Cosmos. As far as the rest of the fiction, so Illuminae, probably the one I loved the most. I would probably say The Humans is next, probably From Blood and Ash after that one, and then probably A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem, even though I still enjoyed that one and had an entertaining time listening to it. That would probably be my order. I would need to digest a little more maybe to really get a sense of that, but I just need to wrap up this vlog and get it edited and get it up because I have not been posting as much recently with things being crazy this past month. Hopefully I'll be able to get back into the swing of things. So again, thank you so much for watching this rambly video. I will be sure to link the TBR video down below in case you want to see that, but you already know what I read for this vlog, so I'll link that though just in case. I will also link my Twitter and Instagram down below. That's where I like to hang out. I will also, of course, leave Kim's information below. She's an absolute delight. And thank you again, Kim, for drawing prompts for me. This was a ton of fun, and I hope you had fun seeing what I thought about the reads that I ended up picking. And I will also leave more information about how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.